What's goody? It's your host Jay Rose, as always, back with another video. Here we are with a BagTalk podcast. I feel like I haven't recorded one of these in a while, and today I'm here with my way too early predictions for the next NBA season. My first prediction is that the New York Knicks will make a splash, and I know Knicks fans love to hear something like that. After seeing the playoffs and how Julius Randle underperformed again, I think this era of Julius Randle being on the Knicks is coming to a close. There's a couple of candidates that are going to be available next season, I feel like, and that's Joel Embiid, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Zach LaVine. Now for Joel Embiid, I feel like this all is based on whether James Harden comes back, and whether they still do good next season. I don't know if they're going to be able to get a sign and trade for James Harden, or if he's just going to try and get out of there by any means possible by getting waived or anything like that. We also don't know what kind of packages he's going to be getting traded for. So we'll see what happens with that roster. And with James Harden gone, that leaves a giant gap for a number 2 guy. And I don't know if Tyrese Maxey's willing to take that spot, but when Tyrese Maxey jumps into that role, that means there's going to be another gap where he was. So we're not going to see the same dynamic that we saw last season from the Sixers. If they're not successful next season, I can definitely see this team saying, all right, we tried, let's blow it up and try to get some assets from the Knicks, because they do have plenty of young players, picks, and you can get a mid-tier all-star from the Knicks as well. And I feel like another player, Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a lot cheaper. I feel like he's just not as good as Joel Embiid. Plain and simple like that. Karl-Anthony Towns is not as good as Joel Embiid. They're not in the same tier of player, so they're not going to have to pay as much. I don't think the Timberwolves are in a winning situation. They traded all of them picks away and some pretty decent players as well to get Rudy Gobert, and for them to make a play-in tournament and get bounced in the first round. So I don't believe that the Timberwolves are really in a winning situation. I'd love for Cat to get moved to the Knicks so the Knicks can get an upgrade, but also for my next prediction, Anthony Edwards is going to take a big jump next season. I'd love for Anthony Edwards to have the ball in his hand a lot more. I want the Timberwolves to solely focus on him, make sure that this is his team, and build a core roster around him, because this duo of Ant, Cat is just not the best thing I've ever seen. And now that they have Rudy Gobert, they traded all those assets for Rudy Gobert, they should probably keep him and try to build around those two and see what they can get out of that. I'm just not really a big fan of what they've done with Karl-Anthony Towns over the past almost a decade, if you think about it. When did he get drafted? 2016, and it's 2023. So they have not had a ton of success. They've been to the playoffs, 3 times? And 2 of them were because of the play-in tournament. They made it once with Jimmy. They made it twice through the play-in, in this year and last year, and that's been it. And they've got bounced in the first round each and every time. So I think it just makes a lot of sense for them to just give up on Karl-Anthony Towns, to be frank with you. With my next prediction, I think the Celtics will honestly breeze through this year's regular season, not only because, you know, they've been breezing through the regular season the past couple of seasons, besides maybe one. I know there's one year where they dropped really far, but they usually do breeze through the regular season. They have more or less the same roster they had last year, and they added a nice piece in Kristaps Porzingis. That's like a 19-20 point per game scorer, 10 rebounds a game, around that ballpark, and now you just have him there as a third option with you and Jaylen Brown, and I think that's a great addition. And honestly, it's not an addition I think they needed. I think they should have at least made the finals last year the way that they were. I think that this is a team that is very good, and they've been very good. So adding Kristaps Porzingis is just stacking the deck on top. I think they're going to have a real good season. Barring injury, of course. I want Kristaps to stay healthy, and he's battled with that his whole career. So hopefully he can stay healthy on the Celtics, and if he does, that team is going to be a force. I think they're just going to walk through everybody, to be completely honest with you. I have 2 teams on the other side of the spectrum. Let me not say other side of the spectrum for both, but for one, the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are going to struggle a lot next season. The Grizzlies have seen a lot of regular season success. They've been one of the top teams in the league the last 2 or 3 years, but because Ja Morant is getting suspended for 25 games, I think that they're going to drop off just a bit. If not a bit, then a ton. I'm not going to lie to you. 25 games without your star player is a lot of games. And this is just off a suspension. Ja is definitely prone to missing his chunk of games each season as well. So for him to already have the suspension, you don't know how many games he's actually going to play off the suspension. So I think there's going to be a lot of games lost for the Grizzlies, and they're going to fall behind. Do I think they're going to miss the playoffs? No, I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. But, going from a top 3 seed to in the play-in realm, I think is where they're going to be at, and that's a huge drop off for the Grizzlies. Another team that I think is going to drop off just a little bit is the Bucks, and it's not because of Giannis. I feel like this core is just aging a bit, especially Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is not the same guy he was when they won that championship. Since the injury, he just hasn't looked the same. Is it possible that he bounces back? Of course. Do I hope that he bounces back? Of course. But what I'm looking at right now and what I saw in the playoffs is that it's Giannis or nothing. Giannis has to score 30, 40 points for y'all to win, and even then you might not get it done. So of course the Bucks had an amazing regular season last year, but I do feel like that this core is running its course, and I think they should make some moves. Last but not least, this is my extremely hot take for the video. Some people might have said the Bucks take was the hot take, but this is my hot take for the video, and I'm going to say that the Dallas Mavericks are going to be a top seed, and this is going to be Luka Doncic's MVP season. Now, a lot of people are going to look at me and go, how are they going to be a top seed? They were just the 11th seed without looking at the context. Last season, Luka Doncic missed a lot of time, and those games, honestly, before Kyrie got there, were all losses. They could not win a game if Luka was not playing. When Kyrie got to the team, Luka was hurt again. They didn't play too many games together. The chemistry wasn't getting built. And honestly, if you watched a lot of the games that they lost, they were close and they played well. So I'm definitely excited to see what they build upon. I've seen a lot of people shit on the Mavericks because they were the 11th seed. But if you were paying attention to the news at the time, Mark Cuban out loud literally said that they were going to start tanking so they can get a lottery pick because they didn't feel like they were good enough to win and make a really big impact in the playoffs. So they said, instead of gunning for the play-in to get in, let's just take our time, rebuild, get this draft pick. Not that I agree with what they did. I think they should have gone for it because I do think that we would have been a good team in the playoffs regardless of how far we went. But they wanted that lottery pick, and that lottery pick has helped us to build in this offseason. The Mavericks have had a good offseason. They re-signed Kyrie, they got Seth Curry, they got Rashawn Holmes, they got Derek Lively out of the draft, they got Olmax out of the draft. The young players like Josh Green, Jaden Hardy are going to progress. I'm definitely excited to see what they do this season. We also picked up Grant Williams, so our defense is going to look innately better out of the gate, and I hope our offense also looks better out of the gate, even though our offense looked fine last year. So if we have the offense we had last year with an upgraded defense, I think this team has the potential to be really high seeded and go on a run. Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA, so I think he can make some shake with this roster. That was it for this episode of the BagTalk podcast. Please subscribe, leave a like. Let me know what you thought about my takes and predictions. You agreed, disagreed? You think I'm crazy? A madman? Whatever you think, leave it in the comments, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.